Hello everyone and welcome to Sally and Bytes. Today, I am here to teach Data File Handling, Part 2, for the Class 12 students of Computer Science. In this video, we are going to learn opening a file, methods to open a file, using open function, using with statement, file open modes, advantages of using with statement, closing a file and various properties of file objects with practical implementation. So, let's dive in and get started. Python has a well-defined methodology for opening, reading, and writing files. In Python, you can work with files to read data from them, write data to them, or perform various file operations. To handle data files in Python, we need to have a file variable or file object or file handle. The process of accessing and manipulating files in Python is done using the open function. Open function is the most extensively used function in handling files in Python. The open function allows you to open a file in different modes, such as reading, writing, or appending. It provides a straightforward way to interact with the file system and handle data stored in files. Now, look at this picture. When we want to read or write a file, let's say on the hard drive, we must first open the file. Opening the file communicates with the operating system, which knows where the data for each file is stored. When we open a file, we are asking the operating system to find the file by name and make sure the file exists. There are two methods to open a file. Using open function. Using with statement. Let's see one by one in detail. Open function takes the name of the file as the first argument. The second argument indicates the mode of accessing the file. The syntax for open function is file variable or file object or file handle equals open of file name, access mode. Here the first argument with open function is the name of the file to be opened, the path to a file, and the second argument describes the mode, that is, how the file will be used throughout the program, whether read mode or write mode or append mode. This is an optional parameter as the default mode is the read mode, reading. The file_object establishes a link between the program and the data file stored in the permanent storage. The access modes define the location of the file pointer, that is, from where the data has to be read and written to the file. Modes for opening a file are read, R mode, to read the file, write, W mode, to write to the file. Append, A mode, to write at the end of the file. Let's learn how to manipulate data with Python's file handling. Files reside in the computer's secondary memory. Secondary memory is persistent, which means that data is not erased when a computer is powered off. Once you make changes to a file and save it, the changes are permanently written and saved in the secondary memory. To work with files, we need to load them into the main memory first. Main memory is the temporary cache memory that holds requested data for a brief interval. The data is lost when the computer is powered off. Now, look at this picture. Files are loaded from secondary memory to the main memory and then processed by the CPU. Once the processing is done, the data is written back to the secondary memory. Let's see in detail. Now, look at the second picture. When opening a file in Python using open function, it returns an object of the file type, enabling file manipulation in the program. Python automatically associates a buffer with the file during its opening. This buffer acts as a temporary memory area to store data before writing it to the file. When writing content to the file, data is first placed in the buffer. Once the buffer is full or when flush is explicitly called, the data is written from the buffer to the file on the hard disk. To ensure data integrity, Python automatically transfers any unsaved data from the buffer to the file when we close it. If needed, the flush method of the file object can be used to force an immediate transfer of data from the buffer to the file before closing, guaranteeing that all data is properly written. Let's learn how file handlers work. Python interacts with files loaded in the main memory through file handlers. When we want to read or write a file, we must open it first. Opening a file signals to the operating system to search for the file by its name and ensure that it exists. The operating system, OS, returns a file handler if open is successful. Then we can interact with our file through the file handler. The file handler does not contain the data itself, it just provides an interface for handling the file operations. Let's look at file handlers in detail. Look at the picture. In your Python code, if opening is successful, the operating system returns us a file handle. The file handle is not the actual data contained in the file, instead, it is a handle that we can use to read the data. It is the object that gets associated with a particular file to perform read or write operations at a particular time. We are given a handle if the requested file exists and we no proper permission to read the file. Let's learn how to open a file. I am using online GDB for data file handling. First, you should remember the syntax to open a file. File_object equals open of file_name, access_mode. So, now look at the code. F equals open of myfile.txt, R. Here myfile.txt is the file name, R is the access mode, R represents read mode. When F, the file object or file variable or the file handle gets printed, Python will raise file not found error. Because myfile.txt file name does not exist. So open function will fail a traceback and we will not get a handle to access the contents of the file, as shown in this picture. How to open a file. Step 1. Click the new file to open a new file. You get a dialog box like this, untitled. So you type the new name for your new file. Here, we have typed myfile.txt. Press OK. Tada! Did you find the new file name, myfile.txt? Step 2. Now let's type the text here. Welcome to Sally N Bytes. Text file is opened successfully. Now, come on, let's run this code. What can you see on the output of this file handle? In the output, we have received a file handle where myfile.txt is the file name and mode is the permission, which is R, stands for read mode, in our case. Encoding is the encoding mechanism for the Unicode character set, UTF-8. When we open a file, it opens in read mode by default and F as the file object or file variable or file handle, whatever we may say, shall be returned as the output by the operating system. Key points to remember. Always create the file in the same default folder where your Python has been installed. When you open a file in read mode, the given file must exist in the folder, otherwise Python will raise file not found error. The first line of code is a common way to open a file in Python and assign a file object to a variable named f. The open function is a built-in Python function used to open files. It takes two arguments. The first argument is the name of the file you want to open, and the second argument is the mode in which you want to open the file. myfile.txt is the name of the file you want to open. Replace myfile.txt with the actual name of the file you want to work with. If the file is in the same directory as your Python script, you can simply provide the file name. If the file is in a different directory, you can specify the file's full path. R is the second argument to open, is the mode in which you want to open the file. In this case, R stands for read mode. This means you are opening the file for reading, and you can only read data from the file, not write to it. F equals this part of the code assigns the file object returned by the open function to the variable f. The variable f now becomes a file handle, which you can use to interact with the opened file. After executing this line of code, you can use the file object f to read data from the file and perform various operations on it. For example, you can use methods like read, readline, or readlines to read the contents of the file. Now, look at the second line of code. This is similar to the previous one, but with a specific file path provided in the name of the file. As explained earlier, the open function is used to open files in Python. In this case, the function is opening a file with the path d:/myfile.txt in read mode, r. d:/myfile.txt is the file path of the file you want to open. The file is located on the D drive, and the file name is myfile.txt. The double slash is used to escape the backslash character. Since it has a special meaning in strings, it is used to escape other characters. Now, let's look at the third line of code. Here f is a variable that will hold the file object after the file is opened. You can choose any valid variable name you prefer. Open function is a built-in Python function used to open files. It takes two main arguments, the file path and the mode. R is a string literal prefix that indicates the following string should be treated as a raw string. This means that backslashes won't be treated as escape characters, which is useful when dealing with file paths. d:/myfile.txt is the file path. It specifies the directory, d:, and the file name, myfile.txt, that you want to open. Finally, R is the mode in which the file is opened. R stands for read mode, which means you are opening the file for reading its contents. Let's learn about the file modes. Mode R opens a file for reading only. The file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. This is the default mode. If the specified file does not exist, it will generate file not found error. Mode RB opens a file for reading only in binary format. The file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. This is the default mode. Mode R+ opens a file for both reading and writing. Plus, the file pointer will be at the beginning of the file. Mode RB+ opens a file for both reading and writing in binary format. The file pointer will be at the beginning of the file. Mode W opens a file for writing only. Overwrites the file if the file exists. If the file does not exist, it creates a new file for writing. Mode WB opens a file for writing only in binary format. Overwrites the file if the file exists. If the file does not exist, creates a new file for writing. Mode W+ opens a file for both writing and reading. Overwrites the existing file if the file exists. If the file does not exist, creates a new file for both reading and writing. Mode WB+ opens a file for both writing and reading in binary format. Overwrites the existing file if the file exists. If the file does not exist, creates a new file for reading and writing. Mode A opens a file for appending. The file pointer is at the end of the file if the file exists. That is, the file is in the append mode. If the file does not exist, it creates a new file for writing. Mode A, B opens a file for appending in binary format. The file pointer is at the end of the file if the file exists. That is, the file is in the append mode. If the file does not exist, it creates a new file for writing. Mode A+ opens a file for both appending and reading. The file pointer is at the end of the file if the file exists. The file opens in the append mode. If the file does not exist, it creates a new file for reading and writing. Mode A, B+. Opens a file for both appending and reading in binary format. The file pointer is at the end of the file if the file exists. The file opens in the append mode. If the file does not exist, it creates a new file for reading and writing. Key point to remember. The default file open mode is read mode. If you do not provide any file open mode, Python will open it in read mode, R. Let's see an example. This line of code will open the file myfile.txt for reading and writing purpose. Here, the name of the file specified is constant. If it already exists, then it has to be in the same folder where we are working now, otherwise we have to specify the complete path. Note: it is not mandatory to have file name with extension. In this example, .txt extension is used for convenience of identification as it is easy to identify the file as a text file. For binary file, we will use .dat extension. Apart from using open, function for creation of file, with statement can also be used for the same purpose. With statement groups file operations for compact and readable code. It is useful for related operations executed as pairs. Resources are automatically managed and deallocated. Ensures proper resource release when done. No need to explicitly close files using with statement. Enhances code organization and exception handling. Syntax of with statement is, with open of file name comma, mosed as file object colon. File manipulation statements. Let's see an example. We are writing a program to illustrate with statement. Now, look at the code. In line 2, with open of samplefile.txt comma, w, as f, colon, opens the file named samplefile.txt in write mode, w. The with statement ensures that the file is properly opened and managed. The file object is assigned to the variable f. Now look at line 3, 4, and 5, inside the indented block, f.writeOf, learning \n, f.writeOf, Python files \n, and f.writeOf is interesting \n. These lines write the given text to the file, each on a new line. Print statement in line 6 prints whether the file is closed or not. f.closed is a Boolean attribute of the file object that indicates if the file is closed, true, or open, false. In line 7, outside the with block, after exiting the indented block, the with statement automatically closes the file is properly closed and resources are released. The final print statement prints whether the file is closed at this point. Since the with block has already exited, the file should be closed, true. So, the output of the code would be something like, is file closed, false. Is file closed now, true. Here, you can see that the file is open, false, inside the with block but closed, true, once the block is exited, confirming that the with statement automatically takes care of proper resource management. Advantages of using with statement. Any file that is opened using with statement is closed automatically once the control comes outside the with statement. In case the user forgets to close the file explicitly or if an exception occurs, the file is closed automatically. Once we are done with the read/write operations on a file, it is a good practice to close the file. Python provides a close method to do so. While closing a file, the system frees the memory allocated to it. The syntax of close function is fileObject.close function. Note that a close function breaks the link between file object and the file on the disk. After closing a file, using close function, no tasks can be performed on that file through the file object. In this example, we have used name property of the file object f along with print statement, which will return the name of the currently used file, which is samplefile.txt in this case. Now, look down at the first red box. The same program can be alternatively performed in case the file is not present in the Python root directory. Let's assume that the text file is present in the D drive. Then the open function method shall be defined as f equals open of d:\samplefile.txt, r. Here, you have to note that accessing file with / if stored on some other drive. In the next line print statement, read function is used for reading the data present in the file. Note that a file always gets opened in read mode and is text file by default. Let's see the various properties of file object. Once open is successful and file object gets created, we can retrieve various details related to that file using its associated properties. Name. Name of the opened file. Mode. Mode in which the file gets opened. Closed. Returns Boolean value, which indicates whether the file is closed or not. Encoding. Returns the encoding format of the file. The various properties of file object are seen in this example. You can check this one by one. Thanks for watching. Watch the upcoming videos. Data File Handling Part 3. Reading from a file, read function, read of n function, readline function, readlines function. You can check the link in the description box below.